The world is unfair. There's a lot of money out there, but little of it reaches our pockets. While a small group of people are getting richer, the rest of us struggle on, trying to get by. And for those of us of a certain age, we have the words of Eminem ringing in our ears. If you know the rules of the game, play. Because when we die, we know we're going the same way. It's cool to be a player, but it sucks to be the fan, when all you need is bucks to be the man. If only there was a way we can turn our hard work into everything we want. If only someone could tell us the tricks of the rich to get ahead. How to be more successful with the ladies, how to beat the stock market. If only there was someone who could tell us the rules of the game. Enter the Internet Gurus. They just seem so relatable and willing to teach us everything they know so that we can become successful too. And they just seem to know what makes us tick, what drives us, what we want. But it's all a trick, built upon psychological tricks that were created over a period of hundreds of years. And by the end of this video, you will understand the psychological tricks that are played on us by the Internet Gurus. There they are, infiltrating our social media feeds with their adverts promising to tell us their secrets of success through their masterclass, promising to tell us the rules of the game. Why wouldn't we want to learn the secrets? To learn how to make sense of the world so that we can just be as successful as the rich and famous. After all, humans seek out logic from chaos. Don't believe me? Consider this from Matt Davis's 2012 research paper. Fluent English speakers will be able to understand that paragraph as reading, according to a researcher at Cambridge University, it doesn't matter in what order the letters in a word are. The only important thing is that the first and last letter be at the right place. It is pattern recognition, and our brain is designed to interpret things that do not make sense into things that do make sense. And when it doesn't make sense, after a while we end up with headaches, frustrated or angry. But in order to decipher the passage, we need to have the fundamentals of the English language understood. And the argument goes, we were taught the English language by a teacher, right? So goes the arguments for the Internet Gurus. This is how they lure us into buying their course. They will tell us that we're failing right now because we can't make sense of the situation, we don't know the fundamentals, we don't know the rules of the game, but they will teach us all that we need to know to get to that success, all from buying their course. We see all the right things. They have worked on our emotions and the neurons are clicking. But hang on, this all sounds too good to be true. At this point, our brain kicks in, our skepticism. The same natural defense mechanism that will stop us from poisoning ourselves by eating the wrong berries. We are now ready to pull away from buying the course. So how do the Internet Gurus overcome our skepticism? How do they convince us to buy their course? It starts with the free webinar, and right from the kickoff, we feel like we owe them. We feel a debt is owed to the Internet Guru. They have given us something, and now we must repay the kindness they gave through their free webinar. This feeling of owing someone is known as reciprocity and is well known as a marketing strategy, having been identified by Dr. Robert Cialdini in his 1984 book called Influence. But each of these processes are psychological tricks piled on top of each other to ensure that at least one of them resonates with us, their target audience. So, how do these work? Why will some of us fall for them? By the end of this video, you will have a better understanding of why some of us will give Internet Gurus our hard-earned money. The Internet Gurus' aim is not complicated. They have developed a product, whether it is a course, an ebook or a membership scheme with different levels, and they want to sell it to us. It is a simple producer-consumer relationship with us as the consumers, and they play on our psychology to get us to buy. Of course, it is not only Internet Gurus that do this, with big businesses also doing this, but the number of psychological tricks played on us by the Internet Gurus is phenomenal. Now, no discussion of consumer behaviour can be had without discussing Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which was part of his theory on human motivation. Despite being criticised for the methodology and limited sampling in the research, Maslow's hierarchy of needs continues to be used in textbooks for consumer psychology and where I found him for work psychology. Abraham Maslow proposed the hierarchy of needs back in 1943, fully setting it out as a concept in 1954. Since then, it has been developed further to what we have today. As set out in the article for Saul MacLeod, a psychology teaching assistant at Manchester University, Maslow's hierarchy of needs has been expanded to 8 stages. The 8 stages are: physiological needs, safety needs, need for love and belonging, esteem needs, cognitive needs, aesthetic needs, self-actualization needs, and transcendence needs. It is important to note that whereas it was originally proposed that the bottom layers need to be achieved before moving to the next one up, it is now considered to be a much more fluid than that, with the person's motivation jumping to different stages depending on the circumstances and the stages being more blurred than defined. So how do the internet gurus use these stages of needs to motivate us to buying into their products? Let's break them down one by one. But remember, the internet gurus will jump around the different stages of needs as they want. The first stage of motivation is physiological needs. This is our demand for basic needs such as food, water, rest and warmth, with the next stage of motivation being safety needs such as physical, emotional, financial safety, shelter and security, which can include job security. So what tricks do the internet gurus use for these two stages? How do the internet gurus remind us of all those concerns? Well, cue the fake background stories of the internet gurus. How they spent hours stuck in city traffic for little pay in a dead-end 9-to-5 job for a boss less clever than them. Notice how they disparage 9-to-5 jobs, or how they were so poor they were unable to pay their bills. And they tell us this because they want the story to resonate with us. How many of us haven't been in that situation? But wait, one day they had an epiphany and they worked out the secret formula in cryptocurrency, property or business, and they have walked away from all that pain and stress. And the best bit? We can also do that if we just buy their course to learn that secret formula. Their level of manipulation in the use of background story is phenomenal, and there's a lot to unpack. First, they use the art of storytelling because it would trigger our emotions and help us to connect with them. After all, according to Zig Ziglar, we buy for emotional reasons. Second, the story will help us to imagine the process of turning from being poor to being rich, from being lonely to being popular, from being a loser to being successful. The story will be biased so that we believe that the only thing that changed in the internet guru's life was this secret formula that they are now willing to sell us. And third, as set out in Rossiter and Percy's Purchase Motivations and Emotions theory, they are trying to make us believe their course will move us from annoyance to relief and fear to relaxation. The avoidance of pain will lead us to make the purchase. The art of storytelling, coupled with the belief that we will satisfy our physiological needs and safety needs just by buying that course, will lead us to continuing that purchasing journey. But the internet gurus won't just rely on that. No, they will also try to play on our need for love and belonging. And they'll also do this by working on our desire for friendship and the need to be part of a group. This is why they will invite us to a special event where they will group us together, getting us to open up about our inner fears. And that desire to be part of an even more special group? Oh well, we need to pay that little extra for that next level, or they will tell us how they don't need us. Because they'll tap into our esteem needs. Maslow's classified esteem needs into two categories: esteem for oneself, which means the need for dignity, achievement, mastery or independence, and the desire for reputation or respect from others, which has been described as the need for status and prestige. And so with these, the internet gurus will tell us that we can achieve mastery at flipping houses, Bitcoin or hooking up with the girls, thereby obtaining the status and prestige that we deserve. Let's cue those videos of the Lamborghinis. But you know the thing about all those needs? According to Maslow, once we've obtained those needs, our motivation begins to decrease. And so, our desire to be in the course program begins to diminish. The internet gurus continue to fight on to drive our motivational needs further. Luckily for them, the next four as defined by Maslow are required by us to achieve personal growth. And you know what's even better for the internet gurus? The more that these needs are met, the more motivated we become and the more money we will hand over to them. They tap into our cognitive needs, our thirst for knowledge and understanding, the need for meaning and predictability. Remember Matt Davis's research paper? We as a human species need to understand things. The internet gurus know that we need the unfairness of the world to make sense. And so they will tell us that the knowledge we will learn on their course is worth more than spending years at Harvard. But buying that knowledge, we in turn will be able to buy the best of things. Notice how all the houses they show are Instagrammable buildings? That's because they know that they are tapping into our need for the things of beauty, and they will show us all the branded goods they have. The desire for these beautiful things and being more connected to nature is well known for the wealthy. Rich people have big mansions by the ocean, they go to the theatre, they sponsor museums, and they buy art. They have their aesthetic needs met. Poor people live in dark neighbourhoods with a lack of facilities. And we know which type of life we want, don't we? Because we all want to realise our full personal potential and obtain personal growth. We can do that through money and by living the laptop life. We can go on all those expensive holidays and obtain all the respect that we deserve. And a bit of social proof wouldn't go amiss at this stage, showing how people who have used the Internet Guru's product have achieved their dreams. Finally, transcendence needs are met when a person's values transcend beyond the personal self. This is described as a mystical experience, service to others, or religious faith. Internet gurus who push their courses using the law of attraction and manifestation techniques are tapping into the level of transcendence needs that some of us are trying to achieve. Having been through all the stages of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the Internet gurus are selling a dream. Question is, are we buying it? This all sounds too good to be true, and we still have that last minute doubt, that nagging feeling. But wait, they're not done with us yet. They will offer us bonus stacks, those additional items that they keep piling on right towards the end of their free webinar. Often these just include elements of the course that's been taken out of the main course and repackaged as extras. This is a play on reciprocity, as mentioned earlier, something that would cost but given for free. The drip of owing them a social debt to buy their course. The other reason for the bonus stacks, especially when used with heavy discounting, is that it prevents us from comparing like for like offerings in the marketplace and to throw off our price anchoring. Why is that important? Price anchoring is the process of establishing a price point which we will then use to make the decision to buy. Notice how the bonus stacks all have values attached to them. This is purely to prevent our brain from price anchoring properly. Finally, they will use our fear of missing out by telling us how limited the product is and how quickly the sale will finish. And having just spent an hour with them in their free webinar, we think to ourselves that we might miss out. Not on the product, but on the lifestyle we so deserve. This scarcity is a well-known tactic and is purely optics. It goes straight to the supply and demand formula, and sometimes it can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. So there we have it. After the battery of all those psychological tricks, some of us will fall for it, but we should not be hard on ourselves. No. These psychological tricks are used time after time by a whole range of retailers. This is called consumer behaviour and is a well-studied area of psychology. The difference is that the Internet gurus pile on psychological trick after psychological trick to get us to buy what is often a poor product. And the more psychological tricks that they use, the more hesitant we should be to buy their product. We may feel that such a scattergun approach will not work on us. We may feel that we would never fall to be conned in such a way. A tried and tested way of convincing us into buying a course that promises to deliver much more than it ever could. Like horoscopes will get it right with one of us occasionally, so too will at least one of those psychological tricks. It's simply a numbers game. At least one of us will end up buying the course, or worse, spending more than we ever wanted. So are we stupid if we end up buying a course? No. It is not how clever we are that determines whether we will fall for the psychological tricks. Let me leave you with an excerpt from an interview that Angela Chen had with Maria Konnikova, the author of The Confidence Game, Why We Fall For It Every Time, a book analysing the tricks of con artists. The article included the following. Victims don't fall for the trick because they're naive or greedy or foolish. In most cases, it's not a personality trait that is to blame, but a state of mind. We are all most likely to be conned when we're emotionally vulnerable and lonely. It's when we're most desperate that we are grateful for the kind stranger who shows up with the easy solution and most likely to quash the inner voice whispering that things are just too good to be true. From the moment we are born, a battle begins over the development of our personality, nature versus nurture. That battle continues over our lifetime. Since 1869, psychologists have tried to understand whether nature or nurture is more influential. That debate continues today. What is clear is that each has an influence, and the effect of nurture can be seen by the way our minds react to external stimuli. Psychologist John Bowlby established that early emotional bonds are an integral part of human nature, and Harry Harlow discovered that contact comfort is overwhelmingly important. The work of these two psychologists is categorized as attachment theory, and it is part of the psychology that internet gurus use to keep a hold over us. My previous video explored how internet gurus use consumer psychology to convince us to buy their course. This video explores how internet gurus affect our psychology to keep a hold over us after we enter their sales funnel by adopting a position of authority. Internet gurus benefit from a mix of societal changes and human psychology that impacts our decision making. Our society has been changing. In the UK, the number of single-parent households has increased over the last 20 years, with more women living alone looking after children. A similar pattern is seen across the West, with 15.76 million children living with a single mother in the United States. The psychological input of parents is complex and has been the subject of much investigation by psychologists. The absence of a father can lead to a child seeking a father figure, a male role model. In 1991, Guy Cardone published his paper, Absent Fathers, Lost Sons, which identified that fathers are often unable to give their sons the praise, affection, or recognition craved by their child. In the silent response that the son receives, the son may try harder to impress or he might withdraw, but whichever happens, the silence remains imprinted on the son's mind. Guy suggested that this may be the competitive interplay of male egos. A man who provides his son with praise would somehow compromise his own power, which would make it less valuable. Whilst this seems harsh on the son, it is believed that if a father were to be too liberal with praise, the son would deem the father not being worthy of impressing. By way of their status, parents are in a position of authority and children are in a position of subordination. This situation is replicated in situations outside the parent-child relationship, for example boss-employee, preacher-worshipper, and teacher-student. In all situations where we are in a subordinate position, we will be obedient. Internet gurus manipulate these situations. Humans are socialized to be obedient from an early age. The level of obedience can be scarily high, as shown by Stanley Milgram's 1963 behavioral study of obedience, which showed that we would follow orders even if that caused extreme pain to others. That experiment led on to a further experiment by Milgram's classmate, Philip Zimbardo. Known as the Stanford Prison Experiment, it showed that people will act according to the social roles assigned to them. Those in a position of power will naturally use, and at times abuse, their authority. Those in a subordinate position will submit to authority. Dan Pena is a man for numbers. You will see from my expose on Dan that he is not as wealthy as he makes out to be and has suffered multi-million-pound losses. However, in a room with Dan Pena, it will be difficult to be the alpha male after listening to his claims of wealth. His videos being picked up by motivational YouTube channels and testimonial interviews including Dan Lok. It's easy to see why so many people attend his course. It's the same with Andrew Tate. His Hustlers University marketing shows the wealthy lifestyle we want, and he is willing to share his knowledge with us. So let's put ourselves in the shoes of one of their students. Imagine for a moment we have purchased one of their courses. Already we are heavily invested in the course and we must make it work. This course is going to impact our future. If it works, we're on our way to be a millionaire. If it fails, we've lost all our money. We have already delivered our part of the contract and now it is time for them to deliver. The balance of power is now with them. We've spent our money, lost our leverage. We now enter their realm, their territory, and friends and family won't understand the value they bring. The internet gurus assume the role of the teacher and we are in the role of the student. We have now entered the parent-child relationship. Both Dan Lok and Brian Rose have even explicitly referred to Dan as a father figure. Andrew Tate adopts the position of an elder brother. Both adopt a position of authority. And while all the internet gurus place the issue of our lack of success with us not understanding the world or system, Dan Pena goes one step further, ridiculing, shouting and swearing at his students. No matter which way we cut it, Dan Pena is in a position of authority, just as Zimbardo described. Are we really shocked that someone who has just spent £20,000 will sit and receive abuse? Don't be. In 1951, Solomon Asch set out that a group exerts profound social effects on its members, with people feeling compelled to conform in order to fit in. This includes pretending or even convincing themselves that they agree with the majority. This tendency to conform can be stronger than their own values or basic perceptions, and as Milgram discovered, people are more obedient than you think. The degree of influence internet gurus have over us cannot be overestimated, with some students wanting to please or impress the authoritative figure. This imbalance in power can lead to poor decision making, further financial loss, and a feeling of undue influence. To break away from this imbalanced relationship, two things are needed: logic and emotions. To make a logical decision, there is a need for knowledge. Sometimes that knowledge comes by way of luck, such as the discovery that Dan Locke was in fact renting his $35 million property rather than owning it. Other times, knowledge comes by way of due diligence, such as reviewing company records to show Dan Pena's true worth. For Andrew Tate, it can be the knowledge of allegations that some of his wealth has been gained by illicit means. But I know what you are thinking. You're thinking that once you present a student with the evidence, they will open their eyes to reality, right? They would have the strength to break off the teacher-student relationship, yes? Not quite, because like a lot of people in imbalanced relationships, emotion comes into play. Any decision to break free from an imbalanced relationship requires emotion. The Internet Guru is in a position of authority, and the student is in a subordinate position. The huge potential financial loss amplifies the power balance in favour of the Guru. In legal terms, we are in a weak bargaining position. We feel not only the financial loss, but also an emotional loss, the loss of hope connected to our future dreams. Once in the contract, we lack money and agency. We feel powerless because the terms and conditions of the course contract are heavily leveraged against us. And those terms and conditions, as well as the Internet Guru, will tell the student that the problem is with them, it's us who has failed. And this makes sense when we try to understand why some of these students will buy another course or pay to reach the next level of course, sometimes by further extending their loss by taking out credit. In my opinion, this imbalanced relationship is reminiscent of abusive relationships because the outcomes are similar. Internet Guru victims will exhibit the same behaviours as abuse victims. They blame themselves by thinking that they have failed to follow the course properly. They believe that the situation will change if only they followed the instructions properly. They are addicted to the situation and return to such courses time after time. And they fear the future outside of the situation because this is an acceptance that they have lost their money and their dreams. Breaking free from the influence of Internet Gurus is no different to the ending of a relationship. Even if we know it was the best, it can still hurt. For some people, the end of a relationship causes the same stages of grief as the person mourns the loss of their future. So we will go through the 5 stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and finally acceptance. Knowing the truth and believing the truth are 2 different things, but once we believe the truth and accept the situation, we will be able to rebalance the power in our relationship with the Internet Guru. Thank you for watching. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe.